So, welcome back, everybody. This is the Balagan Connection. This is DaviD TaL, and today we're going to make a connection between a carrot and a stick. Or a stick and a carrot, whatever you want. And this is a serious connection because we are standing at a historical moment. We're standing at a place where two paths are laid out and they're intersecting right now. Right now, the path of diplomacy on one hand and the path of military confrontation on the other hand. And what I'm talking about is the growing nuclear threat from the Islamic Republic of Iran. And that's the subject for today. So let's dive in. This is the Balagan Connection. Let's talk about what's going on. And I want to set the stage first and talk about what has happened. Iran went through an upheaval in 1979 and turned from a secular Muslim country to a radical Islamic country. Another one of the outskirts is that Iran is a Shiite country, as opposed to the vast majority of Arab Muslims who are Sunni. Iran is a sect of Islam that is a little bit different. Now, there are Shiites in different places also, but they're always a minority. But Iran is a Shiite majority country. And the Shiites have always tried to dominate the Muslim world. Until now, they haven't actually been able to. But they have tried as much as possible to pick up the flag of the leadership of the Muslim world. By the way, it always happens. We've got a Turkish president trying to pick up the flag of the leadership of the Muslim world. He is Sunni, okay? Iran is Shiite. And in all of this, okay, there's a massive struggle between the Sunni and Shiite going all over the Middle East. Over the years, Iran has created a series of proxies, other armies who actually follow their bidding and have been part of this Cold War, Sunni Shiite war that's been going on in the Middle East. And who's stuck in the middle of this like everything else? It is Israel. So that's the backdrop for all of this. And we all know what happened on October 7th, the terrible attack. The terrible attack happened in Gaza, but Iran is the instigator, is the motivator, though they didn't really plan it correctly. The attack in Gaza was supposed to correlate with another attack in the north with the Hezbollah, which is also an Iranian proxy, and they should have come together and created an all-out doomsday scenario for Israel. The thing is that the Hamas pulled it off before the Iranians were ready. The Hezbollah got into the story a little bit later, but didn't pull off all of the options. They also had tunnels. They were also planning on breaking in. They were also planning on taking hostages. Just think what it would have looked like if we'd have had hostages in Gaza and hostages in Lebanon. The whole situation would have been much, much different. But because they didn't pull off all the stops, they were not ready for that. Israel did manage, after containing the situation in Lebanon for more than a year, to pull off the famous pager attack, put Hezbollah on their back feet, and as a result of that, the whole axis of fire that Iran was building around Israel more or less crumbled. Okay, the Hezbollah as a fighting force has crumbled, and there's negotiations in Lebanon right now for them to become a, a part of the peace agreement, part of the Abrahamic Accords. The Iranian elements in Iraq have been put under control. Syria has completely dismantled, and what was an Iranian base of operations has now turned into something completely different. They have no access to that. Hezbollah is totally becoming a non-player, and in fact they're talking about taking away their weapons, which was unconceivable in the past. And the situation right now is that the Hamas is almost finished off in the south, the Hezbollah is finished off in the north, all the Iranian proxies are on their back foot, and even the Houthis, which were an Iranian proxy sitting in Yemen, in a part of Yemen, are under serious American attack right now. So Iran is in a very serious problem. The only thing, the only card, the only weapon that they have left to play is the nuclear weapon. And for something like 20 years, Iran has been trying to put together a nuclear capability. A nuclear capability meaning to enrich enough uranium, build a reactor, enrich the uranium, get enough uranium together to create a bomb, find a way to put the trigger together, encapsulate that in a size that is small enough to put in a missile, and you will be able to threaten Israel. I was driving down the highway from Modi'in to Tel Aviv the other day, and you see the whole Tel Aviv plateau. You see all of Gush Dan, the whole main metropolis of Israel spread underneath us. And I'm telling you, something in my soul said, this is the threat. One mushroom cloud over Tel Aviv would be the end of Israel. Would be the end of Israel in any way, shape, or form. That is the existential threat that we're talking about right now. Which is why the state of Israel has been doing everything in its power in the past in order to stop, to curb, and to postpone Iranian capabilities, or the Iranian capability to create a nuclear weapon. A side note, I need you to understand, whether they use the weapon or not, in the world that we live in, the ability or the possession of a nuclear weapon changes everything, because that is the doomsday bomb. I don't know if Israel does or doesn't have nuclear weapons, but enough people think that we do, that they will think twice about attacking Israel, because we can actually blow up any major city in the world today. And what I'm trying to say is that the Iranians are looking for that kind of ability, for that kind of capability, and that's what has all of us very, very worried. Christy, can you come here a minute? I did not check if the microphone is off. Can you check up there and see if it's bobbing? Can you turn the screen over here? Yeah, turn it around. Don't move the camera. Just flip it. Just turn it. And see if it's bobbing up there on the left. Okay. Thank you. So Israel's been trying to put off the Iranian nuclear capability. In the past, we've been doing it in different ways. There have been cyber attacks and viruses that attack their system. Iranian nuclear physicists die mysteriously. And all of that has been setting back. But we haven't really been able to get into the Iranian nuclear program. We haven't really been able to set it back. And it's reaching a point today where Iran has enough enriched uranium in order to build a nuclear option. And that is unacceptable to Israel. But ever since the Trump administration came into power, that's also been unacceptable to the United States. Well, it's always been unacceptable to the rest of the world. But there's two main strategies to deal with not letting the Iranians have a nuclear option. And again, let's go back to how we started off. One is the carrot and one is the stick. You dangle a carrot in front of a horse or a mule in order to get him to do something that you want. And you will be able to motivate him to go to wherever you want. On the other hand, if he doesn't, or if you want to use a different system, you use the stick in the back in order to push him to do whatever you want. That's the carrot and stick diplomacy. I didn't invent it. It was here. And there's always been the stick, and there's always been the carrot. And the Obama administration used the carrot big time. President Trump canceled the agreement that Iran had with the United States and the rest of the Europeans. So he was actually threatening the stick. Right now, after everything that's happened in the Middle East, we're at a crossroads. Iran is about to put together a bomb. It is inconceivable to Israel. It's inconceivable to the United States. But as of now, according to the New York Times, Israel has been on the verge of this decision. Do we fly over there and take out the Iranian nuclear capability? During the last war, we've taken out Iran's anti-air defenses. We've taken out most of Iran's air defense. The S-300s, the S-200s, which were Russian anti-aircraft defense and missile systems, we've taken out. And Israel theoretically would have more or less freedom of skies to go over Iran and do what we know, but what we need to do. But the Iranian facility is deep, deep, deep underground. So Israel has bought up what we call bunker busters, from the United States, and the plan is to use bunker busters, but we're not sure that we'll be able to go inside. We're not sure we'll be able to get all the way in. We're not sure we're going to be able to take out all of the Iranian capabilities, which is why lately it seems that President Trump has been trying to negotiate with the Iranians to stop them from achieving a nuclear capability with an agreement or with a carrot. Now, let's make this clear. Israel doesn't want an agreement, doesn't believe in an agreement, believes in using the stick. And we're going to talk about the American stick and the Israeli stick in a bit, okay? Either a joint stick or each one separately. But for some reason, President Trump has decided that he's going to try the carrot before he uses the stick. Now, let's make this clear. He has been talking about the stick. He has been threatening the stick, but he has decided to sit down with the Iranians, and for the last 2 weeks, they've been sitting down in Oman, which is also on the Arabian Peninsula, with indirect negotiations, and President Trump believes that he can push, coerce, make Iran give up its nuclear ability and its nuclear capability. And the message is this, okay? If we can't reach an agreement by the end of May, that is Trump's threat. By the way, the Europeans have threatened the same thing, but the end of June. So I don't know what's going to happen between the end of June and the end of May. But if we can't reach an agreement, we will use the stick. And that is the threat to Iran, to sit down and reach the negotiation. By the way, otherwise they would not have sat down and negotiated at all. A couple of things about what's going on. Iran has enriched more uranium in the last 6 months than they have in the last 6 years. Basically, I think we're talking about something like 600 pounds of enriched uranium, which means that they have enough uranium to create 7 bombs, I think, according to some of the specialists that I've heard. And their breakout is something about between a week and a month. Meaning if they decided now we want a bomb, it would take them a week, between a week and a month, to actually make the bomb. The question is, do they have the missile capability to, send the bomb to the right place? We're not sure about that. But here's the thing. In what is going on in the Middle East and everything that's happened, Israel is ready to take out the Iranian nuclear capability. The only problem is that in this weird situation that has been kind of created, President Trump has put the brakes on the Israeli attack. And last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was back in the United States, and a lot of people couldn't really understand why he dropped everything. He was in Hungary, flew out to the United States. We know today that the main reason that he flew out to the United States is because President Trump wanted to sit in front of him and say, you shall not attack. You will not attack Iran until I have finished this whole negotiation system. And that's the situation right now. Israel is saying, okay, we give in, we will not, but we want that the agreement that is negotiated will make sure that Iran is not a threat. We want the Libya agreement. I don't know if you remember Muammar Gaddafi, the president, the dictator of Libya, the wacko guy, was putting together a nuclear program. And at some point, as a result of pressure and as a result of all kinds of incentives by the West, he gave up his nuclear program, which means he gave away his enriched uranium and he dismantled his nuclear facilities. And Israel is saying that is the only kind of an agreement that Israel is willing to accept, that we will be sure that we will not have a nuclear Iran a little bit down the way. And that is, to a certain extent, the whole carrot situation right now. Whitcliffe came out the other day and said, well, we're going to agree that Iran doesn't need to dismantle its nuclear facility, and Israel berserked and started publishing part of the plan to attack the Iranian nuclear facility that we're going to be talking about in a minute. Since then, Whitcliffe has backed off. He tweeted, I think yesterday, that no, we will make sure that Iran doesn't have a nuclear capability, and that's more or less the situation that we're talking about today. So that is the carrot, and that carrot is still being dangled in front of Iran. But here's the thing. President Trump put a time on it, but Iran, the last time they reached an agreement, it took them 2 years to reach an agreement. The last 2015 agreement took 2 years to come together. And the main problem is who's going to enforce the agreement? Who's going to test the agreement? Who's going to show the agreement? And again, we're talking about an agreement about Iran having a nuclear capability that will destroy Israel. That's what we're talking about. We believe that the Iranian threat is up close and very personal. I mean, if the Iranians are going to do it, they have to do it soon. They've lost the Houthim, or they're losing the Houthim right now. They've lost the Hezbollah in Lebanon. They've lost the Hamas. This is the only the card that they have to play. And if they don't play it, it seems like they're going to use it, which is why everybody is really, really worried about this. Iran is playing for time, and they're playing this two-step. Let's agree this, let's talk about this, let's talk about that. And they're going to try to postpone it as much as they can. Let's talk about the stick. The stick is a big stick. Now, there's two versions of the stick. There's the Jewish stick, and there's the American stick, or the Israeli stick and the American stick. And they are not exactly the same. And the question is, what is being used to threaten Iran right now? Is the United States threatening Iran with, okay, we will let Israel do what it wants to do? Or is the United States, what seems to be, threatening Iran that if we decide that we're going to use the stick, it's going to be not only Israel, but it's going to be us too? And that is why I think to a certain extent, the United States has moved another carrier group into the Middle East. It's moved B-2 bombers into the Indian Ocean. Now, just so you understand, B-2 bombers, by definitions, are bombers that go through any air system, and they carry the massive, I think it's a 3-ton mother of all bombs that is able to penetrate into the deepest bunkers and the deepest facilities underground. And what President Trump has done is he's put those bombers within striking distance, both of Yemen, which have been used last week, and within striking distance of Iran. And while he's having this negotiation, the stick is on the table. Literally, the stick is on the table. They've also been, the United States has also been conducting long-range exercises with the Israeli Air Force to show the world that we can cooperate, Israelis and Americans, in taking out the facility. But it's gone public. And because the Israelis are really worried that President Trump is going to, I'm not going to say sell out, but is only going to make an agreement with Iran that Israel cannot accept, we've been publishing that we were planning on attacking the actual bombing campaign. They were talking about a bombing campaign that would last a week. Now there actually been public connections to an Israeli commando raid, similar to the one that took place in Syria a couple of months ago, where we go in and land forces on the ground to go into the tunnels and into those underground facilities to take out Iran's nuclear facility. And the problem is not only if we can or cannot, most of us agree, the problem is that when Iran gets attacked like this, they have nothing to use. And the retaliation might be retaliation against shipping in the Straits of Hormuz, which is another of the, the choke points, where I think something like 30% of the world's oil goes through on a regular basis, attacking on shipping all over the world. It might be attacks against American assets, meaning American bases in the Middle East, and the United States have moved in all kinds of facilities in order to counterdict that. It might be attacks against American allies, both against Israel, though Israel can probably withhold an attack, but mainly the main threat that Iran is waving right now is attacks against Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, both the oil facilities, Saudi Arabia, even the soft targets like the cities, I mean, all of that would put the world in a turmoil. And that is the situation right now. We're kind of waiting to see if the stick will work, if the carrot will work, if not, if we need to use the stick, and what's going to happen. I need to tie one more thing into that. Time is clicking away. But the situation in Ukraine is playing a role here. And it seems to me that the United States of America, to a certain extent, has given up finding a solution for the problem in Ukraine. And I think President Trump is really, really anxious to reach a peaceful solution here in the Middle East and to put the Abrahamic Accords back together, get his Nobel Peace Prize, but even more important than that, set his sights and his energies and its concentration on the trade war with China that might turn into a shooting war at any given moment. So there's a feeling that the United States wants to get this done and might be willing to make concessions that they wouldn't have made in the past in order for this to be done as quickly as possible. And as you understand, Israel is very, very worried about that. So the carrot's in the air, the stick's in the air. The question is, what is going to be the final solution? And we are waiting to see how Israel will react to the decision that the United States makes. Here's the weird part of this story. If this was the Biden administration, I do believe Israel would have already attacked. If this was the Obama administration, we would have done what we needed to do and taken the blow up because the relationship was not good. The only reason Israel has not pulled the plug and has not pulled the pin on this explosive is because it's a Trump administration. And in a weird way, we might be looking at a weird situation where Trump is holding Israel back for all kinds of reasons from what it needs to do with Iran today. And that's what has me worried. I think more than anything right now is that we're not sure what President Trump's final goal is. And if there's anything that we've understood about President Trump is that he doesn't always say what he was planning, and he might be maneuvering something completely different in connection to this. I sat down with somebody who is very knowledgeable about the Russian intelligence and dynamic in the Middle East and other ways. And according to him, and I don't know if this is true, according to him, President Trump and President Putin are right now sitting down and carving up the Middle East and carving up the world. And their interests, their upper interests, I mean, look at what happened with Ukraine, look at what's happening in the Middle East, and President Trump has China on the horizon. He's got to deal with this, so he might be willing to sit down. And there's rumors in all kinds of places of much more, how do you say, substantial talks between the Russians and the Americans about, okay, we'll give you this, a negotiation basically. We'll give you this in return for this. The question is, where's Israel in that? And I think to a certain extent, that's what has us more worried than anything else. So that was the carrot and the stick connection. As you can see, we are in Jerusalem right now. That is Jerusalem in the backdrop, and it's a Friday evening. And since I am on this, I do want to make one more, I think, Balagan connection that I think is very interesting. I don't know if you can hear the quiet, but this is the eve of the Sabbath. This is Friday evening. And the eve of the Sabbath in Jerusalem, eve of the Sabbath, everything closes down. But as I was preparing for this, something that kind of sat on my mind, very interesting, is the term in Hebrew for eve or evening is Erev. So we would say right now we are in Erev Shabbat, or the eve of the Passover is Erev Pesach. And Erev is a very interesting because it means evening, it means late afternoon, it means all kinds of things. But in the Jewish Bible, in the Old Testament, okay, the cycles are a little bit different. Most Westerners see time as linear. You start here, you finish here. There is a cycle element to time in the Old Testament. And you go back to Genesis 1 when God is creating the world. He created the world, and then from the evening waited for the next day. And every day of creation, it says this: Vayi erev, vayi boker, hayom ha-rishon, hayom ha-sheni. And it will be evening and it will be morning of the second day or the third day. Meaning the day starts, according to Jewish tradition, in the evening, not in the morning. Not at sunrise, but at sunset the day before. And it starts off with a night before you get sunrise in the day. I think that's very fascinating. So we're on the eve of Passover. Everybody's sitting down. Everybody's having meals with his family. But evening also kind of plays a role in all kinds of different aspects. It says that Jesus died in the evening, in the seventh hour. Okay, 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And another connection that I came up with after the resurrection, Jesus was on the road to Emmaus, and his disciples saw him and met him on the road and didn't recognize him until they sat down in the evening and broke bread. Evening is the cusp of. It is something that is about to happen. It is something that we kind of celebrate. And I'm going to make one more connection to evening here that I find is fascinating. And this is especially for my friends who are deep into the prophecy. And I'm going to kind of coin a Hebrew term, and that is Erev Acharit Hayamim, the evening of the end of days. And I believe that everything that we saw, we talk about, Iran and Russia and everybody, points to the fact that we are in the evening of end times. We're in the Erev of end times. And this is how do you say, the turning point. This is the place where something regular becomes something special. This is the point where we start counting the days. I think we are in Erev Acharit Hayamim, and I think that's a very good term to use, because it seems like everything is coming together towards the end times, and that is just one more connection to make. So, this is DaviD TaL. This is the Balagan Connection on the eve of the Sabbath, overlooking all of Jerusalem and the Mount of Olives. A beautiful view here behind me. Saying to you, Shabbat Shalom, Erev Tov, and just listen to the quiet. Listen to the peace. I really, really hope to see you here as soon as possible. In the meantime, one more connection that I want to make. Me and Christy are still here with Gihon Springs, going to different ministries, different aspects, finding places where we want to invest the resources that God has been showing us and giving us. So if you want to connect to that, go to gihonsprings.com. There's a link down here below. We will be kind of connecting to widows of soldiers who have fallen in battle. We're going to be connecting to a company, a unit, or whatever that trains service dogs for soldiers with PTSD. We'll be connecting to different Christian ministries here in Israel. So if you want to be a part of that, please join us, gihonsprings.com, and Shabbat Shalom from Jerusalem. Hope to see you here soon.